All right. So we are recording. As I was saying, I'm heading to Seattle, then I'm heading to Las Vegas, then I'm heading to Idaho. And one of the things that I'm really going to focus on in Seattle is practical, tactical information, not only information, but actions for people to take in their business. And that's what I want to bring to you folks today. So there's not going to be a lot of philosophy here necessarily. I want to talk about the system that we have in place because here's what I see. I've been observing this business for many, many years now. Even before it was Renatus. I've seen this education evolve over time since its infancy. I've seen the referral side of this business continue to get better and increase, and I've seen what Bob Snyder has done to make sure that we have the best possible opportunity in front of us. And I've watched the different marketplaces. I'm connected to the top leaders. I know what's happening. I know the inside of this business. And I'm the type of guy that I like to know the business behind the business, not just in this, in what we're doing, but everything. Like I watch things as I'm going throughout life, and I start thinking about the business behind the business. What's the business behind the business? And here's what I've seen. We've obviously, with Team Elevate, seen explosive growth. Not only explosive growth in numbers, but more importantly, explosive growth in top income earners, people generating money, people making a true living and a great living from utilizing the systems we have in place. And I have to, tip my hats to the leaders that I've been able to be side by side with in helping to build this team, this brand, this everything else. John O'Neill, with him heading things up and being humble enough to allow for input and allow for people to explore, new and creative ideas. And then when something's working, to be able to adopt it and implement it. Michael Huggins, for his relentless pursuit of success and his drive to push people outside of their comfort zone and towards success. Raul Campos, for his behind the scenes, just continue to make sure that there's systems and tools and everything else that's in place. Nate Lambert, for his creative and outgoing nature, the way that he just goes out there and drives. And when he says he's going to do something, usually he's already put 5 steps in place towards making it happen. And even though it creates some ripples sometimes, he creates results. And we are able to take what works and we're able to adopt it. And then, of course, Mitch Nielsen, with his effort and his commitment to creating a process that works, to creating a sales system. This guy has spent lots and lots of money and time and effort in making sure that he has something that he can plug people into and move them through a process and end up with the result of them engaging in their new life of financial freedom, and then, of course, going out there and duplicating that on the real estate side of the business. So, folks, we have phenomenal leaders in place, and I think about people like Nick Nunu out in Denver, and I think about people like Lonnie Nata out in Las Vegas, and Heidi White and Josh White, and Chris White, who's out in Denver as well, who's now taking on and pushing that marketplace. I mean, we are so blessed to have people that are plugging in and sharing openly, like, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is how it's working. And that stuff that doesn't work, guess what? We don't keep it. And that stuff that does work, we implement it. You guys have probably seen this. And so Mitch Nielsen's really good at taking something and making it digestible. And I love what he's been training recently on how to plug in to this system. So I want you guys to concentrate on what your job really is. As an IMA, your job is not to be an expert, right? Your job is not to know everything. Up front, as you're starting to build your business, your sole purpose is to create intrigue. And if you can create intrigue, then you can make the invitation. And when you make the invitation, you're going to bring them down and plug them into a system that works. So stop overcomplicating this. I'm so sick of hearing people say, I need to do a deal before I can be successful. I need to make $100,000 before I can tell my friends and family about this. I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do that. And then you have people who just go out there and do it, like Wanda, right? Wanda didn't make up these excuses. She just went out there and started talking to people like Jordan and Juan Perioni. Right? I was talking with them last night, and in just a few months that they've been involved in this business, they've made more money than they've ever made before. They don't even know what, like they're actually going to come house and dog sit while I'm out of town for me, and they were talking about how they have more money in their bank account than they realize what to do, and they're itching to figure out where do they want to put that and how they're doing it. I probably shouldn't be saying that out loud, but don't use that. But great folks, and they're making things happen. They're making waves because they're not making excuses. They're allowing the leadership, like Ryan Black. I have to give it up to Ryan and Laura Black and to Virgil and all the top leaders that that have started that Spanish contingent, so to speak, with it and everything that's happening there. Like, I see this success that's coming through. I see people that you wouldn't even expect going out there and getting results. And then I see people who have everything that it takes, who already have success and have success stories that are holding themselves back. So here's what I want you to do. Stop holding yourself back, because your sole purpose as you're starting is to create intrigue and then make an invitation. The rest, there's a system in place for. So if you're talking to your warm market, how do you create intrigue? We've talked about this many times. Make it in your own words, but it's as simple as saying, hey dude, I just learned how to pay off a mortgage in a third of the time. Your friend says, what are you talking about? You say, no, literally, I found out how you could pay off a 30-year mortgage in the next 5 to 7 years. Well, how do you do that? Well, it has to do with using simple interest versus amortized interest. There's a lot to it. It's a lot to explain right now. But I'm actually going to be going to a workshop this Thursday. It's free. Why don't you tag along? It's being at a family party. And Aunt Sally is complaining about how much she paid in taxes last year. And being able to slide into that conversation and say, hey, Aunt Sally, I just found out how I could pay 2/3 less in taxes. She says, what are you talking about? You say, would you be interested if I could show you how? Well, of course I would. I don't want to pay, all these taxes. I think it's crazy. I'm working so hard and it seems like I'm never getting ahead. How do you do that? Well, Aunt Sally, it's actually written into the tax code that the way you structure yourself, you could actually write off majority of your household items. You could even write off your kids. So cousin Larry and cousin Sally Jr., you could actually write them off on your taxes. Well, how do you do it? It's a lot to explain, but I'm going to be going to a workshop this Thursday. It's free. Why don't you tag along? It's that simple, folks. In other words, when they keep asking questions, don't answer them. Shut up. Knock it off. Stop trying to tell people everything. Stop thinking you have to watch all your classes and understand all the systems and be able to explain it word for word, or you're actually hindering yourself. If you know too much and you share too much, you say too much. And if you say too much, those people are not going to show up. And here's what happens when you plug them into the system. See, when you plug them into the system, we've perfected that first exposure. And we've learned, we've figured out that first exposure is not the place that you close business. It's not the place that you enroll people into the education. It is simply designed to build upon the intrigue and to close to the next exposure. So that's what we do with the 4 pillars presentation. If you guys watch it and you pay attention to it, there's a lot there that is specifically left for that next exposure. Like we could fit it in there and we could help people run their numbers right there on the spot. And we could, show people all all the different things and all the education and all the classes and all the instructors and all these things. And guess what? We're probably still not going to close them right there on the spot. This is a $20,000 commitment. This is usually a 3 exposure minimum process. So what do? We created the 3 exposures. First exposure, 4 pillars. It's designed to create intrigue. Second exposure is a follow-up. This is where it's designed to let them test drive, to model for them their journey. That's why we go through the 30, 60, 90 plan. We want them to imagine themselves going through and doing these simple actions, taking just a couple hours a day and apply it to learning and apply it to taking action. This is why we actually play a portion of the class for them, because we want them to think about them sitting and watching this class and gathering this information that they can apply into their life right away. This is why we help them run their velocity banking numbers. We want them to see the light. We want them to understand that 30 years of debt can be paid off in 5 or 10 or whatever that number is for them, depending on their cash flow. We want to model for them if they just increased by 1 real estate deal per year, they could cut that time almost in half oftentimes. And then the next exposure is simply helping them put in their order. Sometimes you do it right there on the spot. Other times it's simply putting in the order on the spot and then creating a plan for them to go find their funds. Not everybody has the funds readily available. And if they don't have the funds readily available, in the follow-up, you want them to have a plan moving forward. You want them to be going out there and talking to those institutions or those individuals who are going to assist them in getting the funds to get started in their education. So again, first first conversation, create intrigue, and don't fulfill it. Don't fulfill it. Just create intrigue and make the invite. Second exposure, 4 pillars. We're going to blow their minds with concepts. And we're going to build upon the intrigue that you've started. Third exposure, we're going to model for them their path towards success, their new life if they start utilizing these systems. And then we're going to ask for the order. Third exposure, sometimes right there on the spot, sometimes the next day in your office, sometimes after a week of them going and applying for the different cards that they're going to get. Sometimes it takes months, depending on their situation, for them to figure out those funds. But you're going to continue to work with them, right? You're going to continue to plug them in. Now, one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to let them go cold in that process of them finding the funds. So that's why we have continual real deal tours, continual cash flow games, continual events that they can continue to attend. Here in Utah, Thursday night, there's 3 exposures that somebody can go through before they've even enrolled. They can go to that first exposure, they can go to the follow-up, they can go to the onboarding class. After that, they're going to continue to repeat until they find their funds. And one thing that you want to understand is the reason we don't let people in study groups until they've funded their education is because there has to be an eliteness to it. You have to leave them wanting something. If you give them everything without them buying, they have no reason to buy. So just plug them in. Hold back those things that are for education holders only. Right? I know in Las Vegas, when I get out there at the first of the week, we're actually doing a training that is for education holders only. So I've still got to confirm this with Lonnie, but my plan is we're going to do a first exposure, a lunchtime exposure for new people. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, All right, everybody who's a part of the team and wants to learn how to get into their first deal, stick around. For those of you who are not a part of the team yet, we're going to have to ask you to leave at this point. We're going to take a 30-minute break. We're going to have some conversations, and then we're going to get started with a workshop, not a training, a workshop on how to go out there and find your first deal. So that's what we're going to do in Las Vegas. In Idaho, I'm going to be there and I'm going to observe their process. I'm going to watch how they're implementing this system because we have some absolutely phenomenal leaders in the Idaho marketplace. Gavin McCaleb, the corporate coach, is taking on the Wednesday presentations there. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. You might want to plug in those people you know in the Boise marketplace. We also have Deslin and Robert Odell. They have 20 plus years experience in real estate investing. They're doing 5 flips at a time like Mitch, and they already were before they got started in this business. And you know what? When they saw what we had, when they saw it was more than just flipping properties, they embraced it and they said, we need to get the word out in Boise about a system that works. And so they are continuing to open up their house for real deal tours. They're pushing and driving and helping anybody who's plugging into that marketplace. So I'm going to stick around, and on Friday, we're going to do an IMA training. And on Saturday, we're going to do more of a real estate-based training. And that might switch. I have to confirm with them how they put it on the calendar. I'm not going to pull it up for you right now because we are at that time. And I've got to finish putting the last items in my bag. I got to jump on the road and head to Salt Lake so I can hit the airport and fly out to Seattle. So for those of you in the Seattle marketplace, I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. It's exciting that we're going to be there together tonight. We're going to go through a powerful training. We're going to go through a deal or no deal workshop. And then tomorrow, for those of you in Seattle that want to join in, I'm going on a tour of the city. I've never been, and I look forward to just going and seeing the sights. So I appreciate you guys being on here. It is Think Rich Thursday. And what I want for you guys as you get off this phone is to do rich on Thursday. Don't just think it today. Go out there and do it. Create intrigue. Don't satisfy it. Make the invite. Plug them into the system. Continue to move them through the process and never get stuck on somebody who gets stuck on themselves. If they stop themselves in the process, have more leads than you can possibly talk to. When you come with the attitude that you don't have enough time for people who aren't willing to take action, more people are going to take action. And that means you're going to get more enrollments. And that means you're going to have a bigger team. And that means you're going to change more lives. Thanks for joining us, folks. Go out there and make it happen.